Hi, I'm Girth Pretty. I'm the author of the definitive Canadian Wine and Cheese Cookbook. Today we're going to be talking about some of the different wine matchings to have with delicious Canadian cheese. And I recommend to start this way whenever you're doing a cheese and wine matching. Starting off with a nice brie style cheese coming from Mountain Meadow in Chase. And it tends to be really good to have with a white wine because you need a white wine such as a Riesling to cut through the creaminess of the cheese. And this is a very nice sheep milk cheese. Still a bit young, it could be a little bit older and a little bit more oozy, as we'd say. And it changes from season to season because depending on the milk that the animals produce and what they're eating, the flavor of the milk will vary as well as the flavor of the cheese a little bit. So it's very true for the smaller artisanal cheese producers. The second cheese is some delicious 10-year-old Britannia cheddar from Agropur, which is Canada's largest dairy cooperative in Quebec. And I prefer really nice old cheddar, at least 5 years old, where you get some really great nippy flavor in the cheese. And you can actually see some of the flavor grains in the cheddar, so it tells you it's been well aged. And having some fun, we're using a blackberry porter beer from Penticton, so up in the Okanagan. And our last cheese is Blue Juliette, prepared by Salt Spring Island Cheese on Salt Spring Island. Just has a little bit of blue mold on the outside, and this one is quite ripe. As I push down on, you can see it's spongy a little bit, so that's really nice and soft. And with blue cheese, you tend to go for a good red wine. In this case, I'm using a Beaujolais Village. You could definitely go with port and also stronger reds, or the possibility too is having a strong beer like a stout or a porter with it. And notice I am eating the rind. A lot of people ask, can you eat the rind? Should you eat the rind? Yes, you can, or you don't have to. It's whatever your own personal preference is. Well, some rinds are too hard to eat, such as like a Parmigiano Reggiano. But what you do though is you save the rind, throw it in the freezer, and whenever you're making any good soups or stews or risotto, throw in the rind in with the broth, and you'll get that wonderful flavor from the cheese in your cooked recipe. Now, you can have fun and experiment and play around by trying different kinds of wine, different kinds of beer, or even different spirits with different cheese. We all have different taste buds. Tony Asper co-wrote the book with me, and we have some wonderful information about different kinds of wine going with different kinds of cheese, such as, say, for the cheddar, you know, you could go for a Cabernet Merlot blend if it's a Canadian cheddar, or if it's a British cheddar, you may want to try more with a Burgundy or a Zinfandel or maybe a Rhone wine. When you're planning to be buying some cheese, go to a good cheese store where they're knowledgeable about the products and also where they're willing to possibly give you a sample of the cheese so that you can make your decision on whether or not you like the cheese or not. Also, buy what you plan to eat just for that week, because there's nothing worse than, what is that product that's in the fridge? You know, the one that's turned green or blue, and I don't remember it being that color. Now, you should also be planning or keep in consideration when you're planning to eat the cheese. If you want to have a cheese that's ready tonight, that's really ripe, they might have some that are really, as we'd say in French, au point, à point, which are truly nicely ripe. Others may need to take, you know, a few days to get to that same quality. And when you plan to serve the cheese for a cheese platter, let it warm up at room temperature for a good 90 minutes. It's just like if you suddenly go outside and it's minus 20 degrees, you're going to be shaking and shivering, you're not going to be at your best. But once you warm up a little bit, you'll be able to do a lot more things. Same with the cheese, warming up at room temperature, all of its delicious aromas and its wonderful flavors will come out and you'll enjoy it even more so. And the thing is, by buying good cheese, you don't need to eat as much because you're actually eating less of it, because you're taking your time to enjoy it. And there is an art of tasting cheese. You first take a small piece and you put it in your mouth, nibble, chew on it, but don't swallow it right away. Push it up to the top of your palate and let it just gently melt in your mouth. And then you really get all the great flavors that you might not have noticed if it just gone straight down. And if you're not certain which wine or beer might go well with the cheese, there's always a great backup, sparkling or champagne. Also, a lot of people don't realize how versatile cheese is for cooking. You know, we think of cheese just on the cheese board, but no, Think of cheddar in a double cheddar roasted garlic bread recipe that I've got in my book. Or imagine an apple pie with a port flavored cheddar, where the cheddar is in the apple pie. It is just to die for. Other ways you could be using cheese stuffed in veal with a pistachio crust, maybe in a brunch item by making a souffle with leeks and gorgonzola cheese, which is a creamy blue cheese. What about something vegetarian? You can make a delicious brown rice cheddar crust vegetable pie. If you're in the mood for creating an amazing 3-course dinner with Canadian cheese, here are my recommendations. Start off having a garlic oca gratiné soup, an amazing soup for wet British Columbia weather. It'll warm up your toes. Doing a phyllo strudel with pork tenderloin and Saint-André-Pré. And dessert, Chambeau Chèvre chocolate cups. We're using a fresh goat cheese flavored with black raspberry liqueur by Chambord and then piped into dark chocolate cups. If you make this menu, you'll have lots of happy friends there.